I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
This is I Should Be Writing number 519. I am Mer Lafferty, your host, and I am doing this live via Twitch. Second time around. Hopefully people can hear me now. And later it'll be released via the podcast feed. So, hello to people who are watching live, and hello to people who are listening later on. Even if it's like several years in the future, because it always freaks me out a little bit whenever somebody wants to go back and hear, like, shows from 2005. I don't recommend it. Some people like it. I don't know. I mean, I'm proud of what I've achieved since then and really don't want to go back to that time. You know. But anyway, I had a little bit of a fear, a little bit of a problem of a gas leak in a neighbor's house yesterday, so didn't get a lot done. Very distracting, gas leaks. So we were kind of ready to leave if they said it was an immediate danger, but then, you know, didn't have to. So it felt like everything we had ended up canceling could have been done, but we didn't know that at the time. Gas leaks can be very, very distracting. I live in Durham, North Carolina, and there was I can say it now because my daughter doesn't go to school there anymore. I don't like talking about exactly that much personal information, but my daughter went to the Durham School of the Arts, which was a block away from the coffee shop that exploded last spring. And we were frequent customers there, and the owner of the coffee shop died because he didn't get out in time. I don't think he quite understood the immediate danger of the moment. Their last Instagram post was like we're closed for the afternoon, but we'll be open as soon as they let us. Yeah, that's a little darker than I meant to go today. So how are you? How's everybody in the chat? Bruce has been listening to the original podcast novel. Still awesome, especially considering some of the crap on podcast networks. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything wrong about that. It's that we did make some good stuff back then. I will grant you that. Anyway, I was thinking about the old coffee shop that had me really just ready to get out and run away yesterday, but we didn't have to, and I assume the neighbor's house is just fine now. So what am I going to talk about on this actual show? First thing I wanted to talk about was antagonists versus protagonists. And by the way, if you have any other questions or topics you want to ask, bring it up in the chat on Twitch, or you can email me at mightymer@gmail.com and I'll get to that next time. But I've been thinking a lot about antagonists and protagonists, and when I'm trying to get ready to write my mysteries, I've been getting a lot of inspiration from Agatha Christie. But I'm realizing there's something that's always struck me as odd about Agatha Christie, and it's one of those things that Arthur Conan Doyle did very well. I don't like Sherlock Holmes stories. They never really speak to me. Holmes is kind of a jerk, and it solved, the little bit I read anyway, things seem to be solved with stuff that Holmes notices but doesn't mention. So the reader never gets any of the clues, while Agatha Christie throws the clues everywhere. If you don't get it, well, that's your problem, but they're there. Except when there's an odor. Sometimes you'll find out that somebody smelled something that really clued them into what was going on, and you don't remember them mentioning that. But the thing that gets me about Agatha Christie is, sure, Poirot and Ms. Marple have to, sometimes do backflips to figure out what the murderer is doing. However, you gotta be really impressed with some of these murderers. It's like they almost knew that Poirot would be on board, and they would have to go through not just a murder, but like double red herrings and fake outs, too numerous to mention. And I think about Death on the Nile, which is not... I hadn't heard it as being like one of the big ones of Christie's, but once I read it, I just can't stop thinking about it. And because it's like 1,000,000 years old, I'm going to go ahead and spoil it for you. It starts out with a young poor woman and her going to a good friend of hers who's super rich and saying, "Hey, you've got a new manor here, and I have my betrothed, my fiancé, who needs a job. So I think you should hire him and make him your groundskeeper." And the other friend's like, "Oh, I'm super rich, I can throw you a bone. Sure, I'll hire your man." And then, the minute she sees him, she's immediately in love. 3 months later, you find her and the groundskeeper going on their honeymoon and being pursued by the jilted lover, her former best friend. And it just goes all over the place. The heiress dies. I think her maid dies. And the fiancé gets shot by his former fiancé, and then he's like, "No, take her away, somebody stay with her, she's really hysterical." And so, and during that time when he's shot and somebody is with the ex-fiancé, that's when the heiress gets murdered. Turns out that he and his ex-fiancée were in it together all the time for him to marry the heiress and then kill her in this grand scheme of... He ends up shooting himself. He pretends that she shot him the first time, and then he shoots himself after he kills his wife, so it will look like he's been shot the whole time. And I'm thinking, that's very, very clever. That's extremely clever. They totally would have gotten away with it had, the world's greatest detective not been on board of the ship. And so, but the thing is you've got these random people who just come up with very, very intricate, ridiculous murder schemes. And then, of course, they get caught, or they commit suicide, or they go to jail, or whatever. But what Holmes has is Moriarty. And this got me thinking about how it's interesting that Marple and Poirot never had their intellectual equal fighting them. And the people were never implied to be their intellectual equals. They were implied always to be someone who does something kind of clever but then screws up and then gets caught. And so I was thinking this morning about antagonists versus protagonists. And there are some rules for antagonists. Especially in a story where someone has... Your protagonist has a great deal of magical power or political power or intelligence or strength. The antagonist has to be at least their equal, preferably a little bit better. You kind of want them to be a sort of tilted mirror image. Like Harry Potter, it's been said from book 1 that he could have been in Slytherin. He had the ambition to be in Slytherin. And interestingly enough, Harry was no great mind. And once you realize Harry was not brilliant, he was really, what's the word I'm looking for? He thought on his feet really well. what the hell's the word? It's gonna bother me. Ingenious? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, Harry was not the brains of the operation. Neither was Malfoy. Malfoy was not a brilliant mind, but he was Harry's antagonist a lot of the way. I mean, Voldemort was too, but Voldemort was so much more powerful than Harry, they couldn't go face to face, because obviously Voldemort would win, until Harry sometimes got better and got braver and got weird Deus Ex Machina presence from his dead mother. But I have a lot of problems with the fourth book. But you want the antagonist to have, if your protagonist is incredibly smart, your antagonist has to be smart. If your protagonist has political power, the antagonist has to be somebody either with political power or enough charisma to get support of people to go against the political person. I'm not good with politics. I can't write politics, but I do know that charisma is a big part of it. Coming up with a person who's just like rich and wants to be mean you can't really get away with that kind of antagonist these days. It's got to be, you got to look at your antagonist and think, how are you compared to my protagonist, and where are you better than my protagonist? Because, in the movie The Fifth Element, the Gary Oldman antagonist he was so easy to beat. I don't even remember. I just remember being very angry that first, Leeloo Dallas Multipass was supposed to be an ultimate weapon, and when she learned about wars, she cried. And second, I don't even remember how the movie ended, but it ended, I remember thinking, Gary Oldman was that easy to beat? What was the point of this whole thing? Except for maybe to give Chris Tucker a boost to his career, which was awesome, by the way. He was the best part of that movie. But, that had Dallas and Leeloo sort of haphazard and strong, but Gary Oldman just, he cared more about his hair than whatever weird ambition he had. I'm going to check on the chat a little bit. Thank you, Murray. As much as I love Sherlock Holmes, it needs to be more of a cerebral adventure stories rather than mysteries. It reads to me as a cerebral adventure story rather than mysteries. That's right. I agree, Cheryl. The only problem with that is that in Christie, you've got person is killed. They have to find the killer, and once the killer's found, the killer is either heavily encouraged to kill themselves, which ethically, yeah, that's weird. Poirot does it at least twice. Convinces the murderer to kill themselves. And then, or, they get caught, or they die. But so even if somebody was a grand mastermind, they're only going to go up against the sleuths once. Improvisational. Yes, that sounds good. That's what I was trying to go for. Harry was very improvisational. That's good. Any comments on Cory Doctorow's Kickstarter? Bruce asks. I don't know what. Can you give me more of? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Cory Doctorow is currently doing a Kickstarter to fund his audiobook for his newest release. He's doing this because now one thing I did not find out was why he's doing it now when he hasn't done it to any other of his books, but Cory refuses to have DRM on any of his works, any of his electronic works. He believes if you buy something, then you own it. And he's encouraged, people to translate his work, and he's been very supportive of Creative Commons, etc. So he's, because Audible or Amazon won't run his stuff without DRM. So Cory's stuff cannot be on the biggest biggest English language audiobook distributor. So he's crowdfunding his production right now, which I support. So I'm not quite sure what exactly Bruce is getting to, so let me know, Bruce, because I'm not quite sure. I've always admired Corey's stance on DRM. I have not felt confident enough in my own career to take a similar stance. Maybe I should. I'm willing to admit my own weakness. But sometimes there's a feeling of how much will standing up for this thing hurt you career-wise, and doesn't matter. You know, I will stand up for people who try to change the race, orientation, religion, or gender of somebody in my books. That's a hill I'll die on. But DRM is something I believe in against. I believe in the fight against DRM, but not to a point of, that's not the hill I'll die on. I'll just admit it. But I admire Corey of doing so. Bruce, model of directly accessing the 30% that Amazon usually gets. Oh, I see. Because he's distributing it himself, he won't be sharing the money with Amazon. I think it works for Corey. He's been a noted Electronic Frontiers Foundation big guy. Yeah, big guy, that's the word. Nope, turning that the other way. There we go. Sorry. Camera got bumped. He's been a notable EFF board member and supporter, and his career's spanned not only as an electronic rights fighter, but also as an author who puts out free ebooks and audiobooks, or no DRM ebooks or audiobooks, for like 20 years now? Getting close to... I don't know when his first book came out, but I remember he was already established when I met him in 6, I think. Anyway, so I think Corey can get away with it. The problem for the rest of us is when I started self-publishing my books like Heaven and Marco and the Red Granny, I put them on Amazon and I put them on Smashwords, which can distribute to all the other places. And I don't know what specifically they say Amazon and Audible market share is, but the income was so different that I just pulled them from Smashwords. Smashwords made me angry on another level just because they keep changing their rules, and so every couple of months I would get a note that this book that had been doing just fine and been acceptable on their platform was suddenly not acceptable, and I had to go in and change stuff, and I got tired of that, especially since it wasn't making me any money. Amazon had like 90% at least of my income. Or rather, they were giving me about 90% of what I was making via self-pub. So Corey doing that, funding it via Kickstarter, and then if he's, is he selling it? I don't know if he's selling it, or he probably is, but yeah, wherever he's going to sell it will probably give him a better percentage cut than Amazon. I don't know. It's important to stand up for what you believe in, but I don't know if I would recommend a new author doing that. I don't know, unless you have an established audience, which Corey has. If that answered your question, cool. If you want me to follow up on anything, let me know. Let's see. Oh, somebody else had a question from the Discord. I can't remember what that was. Billy Boy, do you think that a story would work well if the antagonist is introduced before the protagonist? It seems to me that the protagonist always enters prior to the antagonist. Sure, I think so. It's not who the hero is. It's the protagonist is the person that changes in the story. And there's a brilliant Neil Gaiman short story that I took an online class in short story like a million years ago, and we studied that story, and it's called Chivalry. It's about an old lady who finds the Holy Grail in a thrift store and thinks it looks nice and buys it and takes it home to put on her mantle. And then the next day, Galahad shows up. And he says, I am on a quest for the Holy Grail, and I think you have it. And she's like, no, I like it. So, I'm not interested. Thanks. And Galahad, being the most pure knight ever, goes away, and then you get to see the old lady at home and living her life, and then the next day Galahad shows up. He's got a couple of injuries. He's bringing her like I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, an apple from the golden tree in Greece and a whole bunch of other stuff. And she's like, no, I'm not interested. And it goes on, and you realize that we see the story through the eyes of the old woman. But she's Galahad's antagonist. She doesn't change a whole lot. But Galahad is fighting against her to get the Holy Grail. Thank you for dropping by, Bruce. Hope I answered your question. We did argue in the class whether Galahad was her antagonist or she was Galahad's antagonist. And since I think Galahad changed more in the story than she did, she's Galahad's antagonist. And so we see the story we not only see her first, we see her most of the story through her eyes. Most people follow a certain story structure. And I think that's what most people are used to. That's what most readers are used to. But you can play with little rules like that. I mean, on one hand, people say George Martin, or people say that you shouldn't put prologues in your books, and George Martin seems to have done quite well with Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. And not to mention, every single book starts with someone dying. It's like you get several pages of learning who someone is and who they are and who they're with and what their goals are, and then boom, they're dead. And then the book starts with chapter 1. Every single Song of Ice and Fire book starts like that. So, but I'm talking about Gaiman and Martin, and they're established and good at their jobs and can mess around with the rules. But if you have an idea where you want to introduce the antagonist first, try it. Why not? Just remember, the actual definition is not good guy and bad guy. It's usually person through which we see the story, but also the main part of a protagonist is they have to change. Or I guess if they don't change, they die, like Hamlet. Spoiler. Yes, I just did give a spoiler alert for Hamlet. I'm going to open up Discord because somebody had asked me a question, and I closed it down because my computer was suffering greatly. So talk amongst yourselves. How's everybody doing? Everybody having a good week? Except for Sacramento and an underpope living under apocalyptic skies. Saw somebody post on Twitter that they were trying to take a picture of the outside, and the phone could not handle the color. It kept trying to adjust the color of the outside. So yeah, it's pretty scary. I hope everybody stays safe. It's terrifying. Underpope, death is sort of a change, isn't it? I suppose so. It is a change, but it's not really a change that you see the other end of. In most cases. So I don't know. I kind of see it as a hard stop, not really a change. Yay, smoke, says maybe Lavender, yes. Living the apocalyptic lifestyle. Yeah, wear your mask for 2 reasons now, folks. It's scary out there. I remember in the Spokane Worldcon, I guess 2015, the fires were close enough to where the sky looked apocalyptic and ash was falling down on us. They were also putting up signs at the convention center saying, don't go outside. Not, don't spend a lot of time outside or cover your mouth, but don't go outside. And I'm like, are you expecting us to sleep here? Are we gonna, like, start... Is this how all these apocalyptic movies start, with a whole bunch of people who are trapped in a mall or a convention center? Because I didn't like that. But yeah, they were... ash was falling. They were saying, stay inside the convention center. It was pretty scary. And so, having just had a little bit of a taste of that, what you guys are going through now is absolutely terrifying. So, best of luck to you and or your loved ones who may be in the path of those fires. I hope you remain safe. The moon looked like a slice of pepperoni last night. Ew. That's not amore. Let's see. We have questions. All right, I could really use advice on making an author website when you haven't been published yet. Also advice on using pen names. Well, I have a couple of previous episodes on pen names, and hopefully I've labeled the episodes to where they're pretty easy to find. People use pen names for a lot of different reasons. One is, what you said, searchability is the problem that this person says. But also, Ursula Vernon uses a pen name for her adult stuff because parents know that Ursula Vernon books are cute, adventurous, little irreverent, but for kids. Ursula's adult books are not. And you know from going back to Harry Potter, when Turfy Rowling started doing her adult stuff, she did it under a pen name, and everyone knew that if there would be some Harry Potter fans who would pick it up and then fuss about it. And even under a pen name, and people picked it up and they fussed about it. Sorry, Harry Potter is just one of those ubiquitous things that's easy to reference, and I don't like referencing it now because J.K. Rowling is picking a really weird hill to die on. Yeah. Anyway. Trans rights are human rights, people. Accept that, or you can listen to something else. See, also, Shauna Maguire versus Maren Grant. Yes, Shauna Maguire made her career on urban fantasy, and then when she wrote the absolutely brilliant feed books, which was, I still think the concept is brilliant, which is, it's really about a group of journalists following a presidential campaign, but it's doing it after the zombie apocalypse. So it's a zombie book, but it's also political intrigue. And it was brilliant, but they didn't want, like, fans of Rosemary and Rue to pick up the latest Shauna Maguire book and not understand why they're seeing zombies. And just like Ursula and T. Kingfisher, Shauna Maguire and Mira Grant is not a secret. It's more for the bookshelves. If somebody finds, most people watching this are probably very clued into social media and follow a lot of their favorite creators, so they would know that Shauna's writing different stuff. But there are people who go to the bookstore and pick something up and read it and think, I like this Shauna Maguire person. And then they go back and they pick up another Shauna Maguire book and they're like, why are there zombies? I mean, those customers still are very prevalent, and so they are, that's why you've got these people with these open secrets that Ursula Vernon is T. Kingfisher and Shauna Maguire is Mira Grant. So, I guess come up with your reason why you want to change your name. Some people don't want people in their normal, everyday life to know that they're writing about monsters or violence or sex or politics or whatever. I know somebody who was excommunicated from his church when they found out what he wrote. So, that could be a reason. I always feel weird when I'm listening to somebody talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer from the production side, and they talk about Tony Head. Who the hell is Tony Head? It's Anthony Stewart Head, who had to use Anthony Stewart Head because there was another Tony Head in Entertainment. I don't even know who it was, but there was already a Tony Head, so he had to be Anthony Stewart Head, so he could be, have his own name. So there are options you can do. I've always thought if I had to rebrand myself for whatever reason, I would choose my legal name. Mur is not my legal name. So, that's basically what I've come up with. But I think I hate to put words in her mouth. So I'm not entirely sure if this is true, but I seem to remember Ursula saying if she knew that she was eventually write adult books, she might have chosen the pen name for her children's books and Ursula Verna for her adult books. But, that die was cast like 15 years ago, so now she has to have her pen name be the adult books. Making an author website when you haven't been published yet. I'm going to have to think on that because I've talked a lot about how to maintain an online presence when you're not published yet, but that is largely networking. I use my own agent as an example. It's like, if you like hockey and you are looking for an agent and you think my agent would be a good fit for you, then, making an online presence talking about hockey, tagging her, talking to her about hockey, it all sounds like I'm like making this grand setup manipulation thing. But like I said, if you like hockey and you think she would be a good fit, then that's a really good way to start talking to her. But the website is less of an interaction and more of sort of a placeholder for you and your work. So I'm not really sure. I think making a website on who you are and what you love, like if you have a blog or start making a blog about what you love, you can mention that you're a writer, you can mention what you write, but also blog about your passions. And then when you blog about your passions, hopefully you're writing about your passions as well, or there's some sort of intersection there. You can start bringing in the book you're working on in your blog, and then just make sure that but as for the site itself, make sure it's simple and clean, and don't pad and beef up what's not there, but, talk about who you are and what your goals are. And then if you have an active blog, talk about that journey. But you don't need to say, hello, this is my author website, when you don't have a whole lot to put on it. If you start self-publishing, then you can start putting that on there. Or if you're doing an agent hunt, you can be more open about your projects. And then if an agent's interested in you, they'll look at your site and they'll see that you've been passionately talking about this project. Leave room to grow. And yeah, that's all I can think of right now. Even though I started in 96 with a web job, I still find it difficult to think about all the things that need to go on a website, what should go on a website, and where to put it and all that. Part of the reason I got out of the business. Also, I got laid off. If you saw me on Twitter the other day saying it's time to let go of a 19-year-old grudge, it's with the last company that laid me off in 2001. I think it's probably time. Yeah. So I talked about antagonists and protagonists. Oh, right. One more thing I wanted to talk about was there's I've been talking about if you find yourself distracted by the world. This does not apply to those of you in California and Seattle and Washington and Oregon right now, because the distraction of the world is actually at your door. But the rest of us just feeling the grind of wretchedness that is this year, I have said, choose something different to occupy yourself, and that might help your creative mind. And I've given the example of Twitch. For me, is starting with this new medium that's fun, and I don't have a lot of followers, so I'm not too stressed out about how I'm doing. I'm just doing it. I was thinking about what to advise to other people, and my mind keeps going back to fanfic. And it's funny because I've been developing my own headcanons for stuff, and I didn't even realize it. I had a very funny thought today. I don't know if it's funny to anybody else. Didn't seem to catch on to Twitter. It requires you to have knowledge of 2 games. But stay with me here. By the way, I'm going to, because I consider this show clean, I'm going to be going into a little bit of discussion of sex, but no bad words or detail. There's your content warning. So, there's a character in Dragon Age Inquisition. His name is the Iron Bull. He's voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr. His voice is very deep and rich and doesn't sound like Freddie Prinze Jr. at all, and it really breaks my head knowing that that's Freddie Prinze Jr., but I digress. In Dragon Age, you can romance a number of people. I want to say 8? 8 or 10. I can't remember. The Iron Bull is one of them. But as you have the dialogue options to flirt with him, he never ever responds. And you can keep flirting, you guys kill a dragon together, you go drinking together, you have a chance to flirt with him again, he doesn't pay any attention to you. And then, at one point, when you've reached enough, you don't get to see what this number is, but somewhere in the computer code is the decision that you have made enough friendship points with Bull to where he will respond to you. And he's finally like, look, it's not like I haven't noticed, but it's Bull is also a spy, and he tells you he's a spy, and he's also a master manipulator of the I can't say human condition because he's not a human, but what makes people tick. He knows. And in looking at you and deciding you as the leader of this massive monster hunting, religious organization fighting Inquisition, he has decided what you need as a lover. And that is to give up all control and enter a BDSM relationship. He asked you 3 times. Like, people have done articles on the concept of consent in this game. It's so brilliant. Like, you have to say yes 3 times to this relationship before he will ever make a move on you. And so, Bull ignores you and then says, okay, but here's how it's gonna go. You control all of this. You need to lose control for a little while. Give me control and we can be lovers. I am going somewhere with this. I'm playing another game called Rune Factory 4. And it is a nice little Japanese RPG that has it has romance, only hetero romance, which is disappointing, but one of the guys you can the cute, hot, mysterious, cranky guy is turns out to be kind of a victim-blaming jerk. But there's another guy who's just very sweet and very intellectual and cute, and I've tried to flirt with him, and he's completely oblivious. And then today I thought, oh my god, he's like the Iron Bull. If I can just crack Arthur open, suddenly this nice, cute, farming-based JRPG is going to turn into BDSM and stuff. It kind of blew my mind. And I thought, I want to write some fanfic. I'll even write sexy fanfic. But the idea amused me so much that I realized that if I weren't doing this, if I weren't doing the Twitch thing right now, I might be delving into fanfic because I'm finding so much pleasure just thinking about headcanons of other games. Not other games, but of games. I've got, I stream Stardew Valley on Sunday afternoons, and I've talked about my headcanon in there, which is basically my grandfather and Pierre, the owner of the general store, really hated each other. And my actions in the game reflect off that. Reflect on that. Reflect from that. The words are wrong, but you get my meaning. I trust you. And it's fun to change. I'm not writing fanfic, but I am playing the game with this headcanon in mind, which changes a little bit for me and makes me enjoy it a little bit more. So I'm suggesting, if you don't want to move to a new medium, at least distract yourself by writing something that you would never write before, or go into an area that you haven't done before, like fanfic, or change genres. Because, again, nobody cares. Nobody cares about the romance that I write. Not yet. I want to write a romance, but I'm a little intimidated. And also, I'm not proven in that genre. That might be where I have to use the pen name. But, oh, the chat has died. Oh, wait, no, we got, Billy Boy, Earl Stanley Gardner also wrote under the name A.A. Fair. I always thought that he did that so the person buying a book doesn't think the story would be a Perry Mason story. That's very likely. What did he write? What genre did A.A. Fair write? I'm curious now. But yeah, it's don't look down on fanfic, because fanfic's a big playground. And if you remember what it's like to be let loose at recess and get to run around the playground with not a care in the world, maybe try some fanfic. And if you come across Rune Factory 4 fanfic that takes the very intellectual, quiet prince of the town and turns him into a BDSM guy, I did not write it. Not me. So I have exhausted my topics. If there's anything anybody would like me to mention in the chat, please let me know. Otherwise, let me tell you my Twitch stream schedule plans, which is tonight I will be streaming How to Fool Boyfriend. I think I'm getting close to the big switch in the point where the first half of the game's over and then it gets weird. First half of the game is a person dating a bunch of birds, so it's not even weird yet. I only know what happens to change the story, but I don't know what happens after that, so don't spoil me. And I won't spoil you. Whoops. I won't spoil you if you're watching me. But that's 8 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. Sunday afternoon at 2, I will be doing Stardew Valley. And then next week, I'm back on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12:30 p.m. I should be writing. And then gaming. Oh, and a Monday AMA at 12:30 as well. So I do like a just general talk. I can talk about writing, but I can also talk about anything else. So that's Monday at 12:30. Tuesday, Thursdays are I Should Be Writing live. And Thursdays and Sundays are gaming live. That's how you can find me. Thank you for coming by, Todd. Lovely to see you. And thanks to everybody else. If you're new to me, you can see me at merverse.com. A.A. Fair wrote the Donald LeMay Bertha Cool detective stories, or is that Yame? I don't know what that is. Anyway, I have never heard of those mysteries. That's interesting. So yeah, on Twitter and on Twitch, I'm Mighty Mer. And if you want to support the Patreon, that's patreon.com/MightyMer, where you can get access to the I Should Be Writing Discord, and you get access to all of the many, many episodes of both my shows and the archives. Because RSS feeds can get too big. And if you put all 500-some episodes of I Should Be Writing, plus all the extra episodes that did not fall into the 1 to 500 numbers, like I did some video and I did some NaNoWriMo episodes that were numbered differently. So there's a lot more than 513, or 518 in the archives. But you can also support me on twitch.tv/MightyMur by subscribing or simply by following. And I think that's everything. I really appreciate you guys. It's always fun to do this live, and your constant interaction with me and just support really helps me continue to do this. So thank you very much. I will hopefully see some of you tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And if not, hopefully see you Sunday or Monday. And if you're only here for I Should Be Writing, then I'll see you on Tuesday at 12:30 Eastern Time. Take care. Remember, you can support the show at patreon.com/MightyMur. I Should Be Writing theme music provided by John Anelio. You can find more about him at johnanelio.com. This podcast is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license.
But I should be writing. I should be working on my